Hey guys, I think I'm just going to quickly address it. It's not something I wanted to really do, but I thought let me do a video about it anyway because there will be some of those interested. Let's start. The most sort of biggest storm in the teacup of many storms in many teacups this weekend, and there's always seemed to be lots of talking points after the Springbok All Black test, but this one started before it. It started after RASSIE had quite a jolly press conference last week. He was very animated. He probably didn't, in his own words, didn't explain Eben Etzebeth's injury right, and Eben was, I sort of figured out afterwards, part of the problem why he didn't explain it right before the time is because they've got a rule that says if a player doesn't train on Monday, he can't play. But now we're going to get technical in this, that they trained on the Saturday and he hurt his knee on the Saturday, and then on the Monday he did train. So they'd already announced the team internally, and then they decided, well, he is ready on the Monday, so technically they are right. And Eben ended up playing a very big part in that test match, right? But he was accused, RASSIE was accused of playing mind games. He was accused of being, compared to Jabba the Hutt, and all sorts of things on SENS. And now just a disclaimer before I play the clip of this of Israel Dag and Scotty Stevenson. Both guys I speak to quite often. I must admit I've been on the show before on SENS as well, and my disclaimer is that I do some interviews with SENS at the time. I've got some friends who work there, and quite often we chat to them as well. So this was the storm in the teacup when they made these comments, of which exploded on social media.
A chat on the run home last night, but we'll talk about the Kiwis in a second. But what about RASSIE Erasmus? Does he just treat the world like his own kind of empire now, does he? Like, if Eben Etzebeth has been named on the bench a day after saying he's been ruled out with a knee injury, he was never ruled out. That just doesn't happen. And the games this guy plays, like there's a part of me that says, well played, sir. There's another part of you that just gets sick. And the one thing I noticed the press conferences this week and the video coverage of RASSIE, is it just me, or is RASSIE Erasmus looking every day more like Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, leader of the House of Harkonnen from June? Like, seriously, what's going on? How much Clippies and Coke has he been on?
He's looking old, eh?
Honestly, he was just sitting there, and I thought, like, he reminds me of. He had, and I'm not. This is not a weight issue, but he had the countenance of Jabba the Hutt, sort of a man just holding court and just knowing that he was the boss of his empire in that moment. It is really strange. But Eben Etzebeth, like, there's no way. If you've got an MCL that's ruling you out of a test, you're not starting on the bench. So. The one thing I'd say about that is, it's one thing to play games. It's another just to straight out lie about your team list. I find that a little bit strange, especially given where sport is and the decisions people are making around sports. And I think you know where I'm getting at for those listeners at home. It's just gaming the system. And he's
not foreign to pushing the rules, Sumo.
Well, he's not. And, I know he's treated as king in South Africa, but, he treads a line, doesn't he?
He does, and mate, it's entertainment. It's like I just thought straight away when he said that hook, line, and sinker, got dagger. I was like, maybe Eben went out with Drickus and went out in Perth and got a bit sideways and started wrestling with Drickus du Plessis, and then he's forced a little injury. There was a lot of things going through my head, but that's just it, mate. Mind games, getting opposition, getting fans excited. Like here in New Zealand, we got super ahead of ourselves. Me. Personally, and thinking, Eben, he's a huge loss, one of the big factors in the Springbok squad, will go a long way. So you have to say it was all part of the plan. It was 100% all part of the plan. Yeah. There's no rules, and no one's going to shut them down because, well, the rules state you can name your team, but if there are injuries or someone recovers, you can change it. He names it early, probably for that simple fact to play these games, Sumo. 100%. I think the cutoff date is Thursday, a couple of days out from Saturday. He names it early so he can play these games like he's played. It is a perfect setup.
Yeah, in your head, RASSIE. Yeah, thanks for your text message. Yeah, no, he's not in my head. Don't worry, I've got a South African mum. You'd have to try harder than that. I've had Yarpies in my head since birth. I was really interested to talk about this. So having some correspondence yesterday with an esteemed colleague, and I'm just going to read you some of this. Not sure why it's taken me so long to reach this conclusion, but I can't remember the last era of All Black rugby where, and I quote, "don't really rate so many players in the squad. I just read the team list for South Africa and just felt so much nothing. And
of course, for those who don't know, RASSIE Erasmus does have a medical condition. It is something that is an autoimmune disease, as far as I know. And of course, making fun of somebody's weight and appearance, something I'm not immune to. People do it all the time. Yeah, in the comments as well. I've got quite a bit through my life. Stuff you shrug off because it's usually people who are small-minded and not knowledgeable, and I thought that was just a poor look from Israel Dag and Scotty Stevenson. I just thought they were trying to be funny. It didn't quite hit the mark. Maybe it's a humour thing for New Zealand. Maybe everybody shouldn't take it as seriously as it did, but it obviously exploded on social media. There was a lot of comment about it, a lot of disgust from South Africans about it, and I think if you're sitting and watching this video overseas, you need to realise RASSIE's sort of taken the box from a 57-0 where Alistair Coetzee had them, lowest point in Springbok history, and won 2 World Cups from that. So he's got a lot of street cred. He's taken on World Rugby, and the refs, whatever your decision, whatever you think about that, if you get for it or against it, but in South Africans' eyes, he's a hero. He's the guy who brought the Springboks back from the brink. He's the guy that took them to #1 and won 2 World Cups. So he's got a lot of street cred among South Africans. He's the type of guy that South Africans will automatically defend, and why not? Because they've seen him bring this team back from the brink. So you got to understand that. So these comments we hit a nerve with South Africans, and of course, as we all know, South Africans on social media are a rather level-headed bunch at times. They tend to be rational and give good arguments. No, I'm joking. Anyway, but this was taken rather seriously. There was a huge outcry. And on Monday, Izzy and Scotty apologized, well, if you could call it that, for the incident, and this was their apology.
Scotty's Spin.
Well, it's transpired over the weekend that some people have become rather annoyed at some of the things said on this show and we're used to that as trained seasoned broadcasters. Sometimes you say things that not everyone agrees with, and last week on the show, it just so happened that in trying to describe the behaviour of Springbok coach RASSIE Erasmus at a press conference, I made some very unfair comparisons. I made some unfair comparisons between two memorable villains of the cinematic universe and the Springbok coach, who I forgot was treated as a god in South Africa, and plenty of people worship at that altar, I can assure you, and also worship at the altar of social media, as I've found out over the weekend. But I think an apology is order. I think some fans have got the wrong end of the stick here, and I wanted to be the first to put my hand up and apologise to those who were offended by the fact that I compared RASSIE Erasmus's behaviour and demeanour to that of Baron Harkonnen from Dune and Jabba the Hutt, the uber villain from Star Wars. And so to fans of the cast and crew and the producers of Dune and Star Wars, you have my heartfelt apologies for making such an unfair comparison to Springbok coach RASSIE Erasmus.
Sumo. I get called fat all the time.
I didn't call RASSIE Erasmus fat.
No, but I'm just saying. I got called bald.
Yeah.
I got called all sorts of names.
Look, I compared him to the villainous
rally
aspects.
New Zealand around me.
That's right. I compared his behaviour to the villainous aspects of Baron Harkonnen and Jabba the Hutt. I didn't compare his weight to those two characters, and that assertion is completely out of line from all of those who believe that RASSIE Erasmus is the most untouchable man in rugby.
You just don't touch him.
So untouchable he is. Apparently, do you know now the Springboks have lodged a formal complaint with World Rugby over the timing of the Wallaby injuries at scrum time during that defeat in Perth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you want to talk about a team that it just will stop at nothing to go after every other team by taking backroom channels and undermining officials and undermining rulings. You've got it right there. By the way, I thought the Springboks wholeheartedly deserved to win that test on the weekend. But please don't tell me that RASSIE Erasmus is a man who's gone through life as a kind-hearted soul. The man is ruthless. We know that, and if you want evidence, talk to any match official over the last 4 years and they will tell you. Anyway, that's my apology to fans of Star Wars in June this morning.
Love it.
Of course, that wasn't really an apology. It was really just trying to be clever again. And I suppose at the end of the day, in these times we live in social media, it gets you the clicks, it gets you the outrage, it gets the rage farming going on, and it gets you the attention. And there's a lot of people who do that in rugby. There's a couple who work at Rugby Pass. There's a couple in each country that there's always somebody who does it, if it's not Stephen Jones or Mark Reason or Chris Ratui, or you can go through them. There's a number of these guys who around there who sort of live off this sort of making a big spectacle. And I think my big takeaway from the whole thing was I didn't really expect it from Scotty, who I've spoken to quite a bit in my life, and Izzy, who they're both decent guys. I don't think there was malice intended in it, but it just was just in poor taste, guys. So I'm not going to get too upset about it. I try not to get upset nowadays about the small stuff. We all say to ourselves we have to be like that, but that's the way I see it. I don't really get, I don't know. It's a storm in a teacup to me. Of course, the conclusion to this was RASSIE just sent him a tweet. Israel Dag replied, as you can see here, and that was the end of it. So we are all a very sensitive bunch in rugby, whether it's New Zealand or South Africa. And I'm not just talking about this situation. If you see the other two videos I posted today, you'll understand as well. There's a lot of sort of very sensitive things going around these games. And listen, passion's great, but keep it in check, guys. Everybody involved, let's keep it in check. We love this game. We love the rivalry between the two sides. And there's always going to be banter, but banter has a line as well. So I think this time the line was crossed, and hopefully it won't happen again. But in the days of social media where everything's an outrage, let's try and just be a bit calmer about these things. Anyway, that's the video. Let me know your thoughts. That's my say in the whole thing. You can agree or disagree, and if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button and follow. There's lots more videos coming along. I'm heading off to Cape Town on Tuesday. I'll be down there for the entire test, so keep an eye on this channel. There'll be a lot more coming from Cape Town, and hopefully another epic test match that we can all talk about the rugby and not all the sideshows. Anyway, cheers.